Most people wait for motivation before they take action. They tell themselves, I'll start when I feel ready. I'll work harder when the spark comes back. I'll change when I'm inspired. But here's the truth we don't like to admit. Motivation is unreliable. It's emotional. It rises when things feel good and disappears the moment life gets uncomfortable. If your progress depends on motivation, your success will always be temporary. That's why discipline matters more than anything else. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't wait for the perfect mood. Discipline moves you forward even on the days you'd rather stay still. Think about how many times you felt motivated at night, full of plans, full of promises, telling yourself tomorrow will be different. And then morning came, reality hit, energy dropped, and suddenly that motivation vanished. That's not a personal failure, that's human nature. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings change. Discipline, on the other hand, is a decision you make once and then honor every single day. Successful people aren't more motivated than you. They're just more disciplined when motivation fades. Discipline is what shows up on the boring days, on the ordinary days, on the days when nothing exciting happens and no one is watching. Those are the days that actually shape your future. Anyone can work hard when they're excited, praised, or inspired. But real growth happens when you keep going without applause, without energy, without certainty. That's when discipline steps in and says, do it anyway. And here's the part that changes everything. Discipline is not punishment, it's freedom. When you rely on motivation, you're controlled by your emotions. When you rely on discipline, you're in control of your actions. Discipline gives you structure when life feels chaotic. It gives you direction when your mind feels unclear. It becomes the bridge between who you are right now and who you want to become. Most people think discipline means being harsh on yourself, forcing misery, living without joy. That's not true. Discipline is actually self-respect. It's choosing to do what benefits your future instead of what comforts your present. Every time you follow through on a commitment you made to yourself, something powerful happens. You start trusting yourself, you start believing your own words. And that confidence doesn't come from motivation. It comes from keeping promises when it's hard. Motivation says, I'll work out when I feel energetic. Discipline says, I work out because that's who I am. Motivation says, I'll focus when I'm inspired. Discipline says, I focus because my goals matter. See the difference? Motivation reacts. Discipline leads. Life will never slow down and wait for you to feel motivated. Problems won't pause. Responsibilities won't disappear. If you only act when you feel good, you'll stay stuck in the same cycle, starting strong, quitting early, and blaming yourself for something that was never meant to be permanent in the first place. Discipline breaks that cycle. It creates momentum. And once momentum starts, motivation often follows. Discipline also protects you on your worst days, on the days when doubt creeps in, on the days when your confidence is low, on the days when you question whether it's even worth it. Motivation would quit on those days. Discipline keeps going. It carries you forward when your emotions try to pull you backward. And every time you push through, you become mentally stronger. Not louder, not more dramatic, just stronger. Understand this, discipline is built, not born. No one wakes up with unbreakable discipline. It starts small, one decision kept, one habit followed through, one moment where you choose action over excuses. Over time, those small acts stack up and discipline becomes your default. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking, should I do this? You already know the answer. And once discipline becomes part of your identity, everything shifts. You stop depending on motivation to save you. You stop waiting for the right time. You stop needing perfect conditions. You move because movement is your standard. Because showing up is what you do. Because discipline has taught you that progress doesn't require passion every day, just commitment. So the next time you're waiting to feel motivated, remember this: motivation may start the journey, but discipline is what finishes it. And if you master discipline, you won't need to chase success. Success will have no choice but to meet you where you stand. Most people underestimate the power of what they do daily because they overestimate the power of what they do occasionally. We live in a world that celebrates sudden breakthroughs, overnight success, and dramatic transformations, so it's easy to believe that massive change requires massive effort all at once. But real success doesn't work like that. Real success is quiet. It's built in repetition. It's created by showing up in small ways over and over again long before anyone notices. Consistency is what turns ordinary actions into extraordinary results. Think about how habits are formed. No single workout makes you fit. No single study session makes you intelligent. No single act of kindness builds a strong relationship. But when those actions are repeated daily, they start shaping who you are. Consistency doesn't just change outcomes, it changes identity. When you repeat a behavior long enough, it stops being something you do and starts becoming who you are. And once something becomes part of your identity, it no longer requires force. It flows naturally. The mistake most people make is waiting for big motivation to do big things instead of committing to small actions they can repeat. Small actions feel insignificant in the moment. They don't feel powerful. They don't feel impressive. That's why they're easy to skip. But that's also why they work. Small actions don't demand heroic energy. They don't require perfect conditions. They fit into real life. And because they're manageable, you can stay consistent even when life gets busy, stressful, or uncertain. Consistency is what allows progress to compound, just like money grows with interest. Effort grows with repetition. 1% improvement each day doesn't feel like much, but over time it creates a massive gap between those who stay consistent and those who rely on bursts of effort. The difference between where you are and where you want to be is often not talent, intelligence, or opportunity. It's how long you're willing to stay consistent without seeing immediate rewards. And this is where most people quit. Not because they're incapable, but because they don't see results fast enough. They show up for a week, maybe a month, and when nothing dramatic happens, they assume it's not working. But consistency works quietly. Results show up late. The effort you put in today may not show results tomorrow, but it is always doing something beneath the surface. Roots are growing before the plant breaks through the soil. If you quit too early, you never get to see what your consistency was building. Consistency also removes pressure. When you focus on doing something perfectly, you feel overwhelmed. When you focus on doing something consistently, you feel grounded. You stop asking, how can I do this flawlessly? And start asking, how can I do this today? That shift changes everything. It allows you to move forward without fear of failure because consistency doesn't demand perfection. It only demands presence. One of the most powerful things consistency does is it builds trust with yourself. Every time you show up, even in a small way, you send yourself a message: I can be relied on. That message builds confidence far more effectively than motivation ever could. Confidence isn't loud. It's built quietly through repeated follow-through. When you trust yourself, you stop doubting your ability to succeed. You know that even if progress is slow, you won't quit. Consistency also simplifies decision-making. When something becomes part of your routine, it no longer drains mental energy. You don't wake up debating whether you should work, train, learn, or improve. The decision has already been made. That saves energy for growth, creativity, and problem solving. Discipline sets the structure, and consistency keeps it alive. There will be days when you don't feel like showing up, days when energy is low, progress feels invisible, and quitting feels tempting. On those days, consistency doesn't ask you to be great. It only asks you to be present. Even a reduced effort counts. Even showing up imperfectly keeps the habit alive. Consistency is not about intensity, it's about continuity. What makes consistency so powerful is that it outlasts motivation. Motivation is emotional. Consistency is mechanical. It keeps moving even when emotions fluctuate. When you commit to consistency, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of feeling inspired one day and defeated the next. You become steady, and steadiness is dangerous in the best way, because steady effort is almost impossible to stop. Consistency also teaches patience, and patience is a skill most people never develop. In a world of instant gratification, staying consistent without immediate reward feels uncomfortable. But that discomfort is where maturity grows. It teaches you to trust the process rather than chase quick results. And once you learn to trust the process, you stop needing constant validation. Over time, consistency creates momentum, and momentum changes how effort feels. What once felt heavy becomes lighter. What once felt difficult becomes normal. You stop forcing yourself to move forward because forward motion has become familiar. Momentum doesn't come from doing something once. It comes from doing it long enough that stopping feels harder than continuing. Consistency also protects you from burnout. Extreme effort followed by long breaks creates exhaustion and frustration. Steady effort creates sustainability. You don't need to give everything you have every day. You just need to give something. That's how people last. That's how goals are actually reached. The truth is, consistency is not exciting. It doesn't make for dramatic stories, but it works every single time. While others are starting over again and again, consistent people are quietly moving ahead. While others are waiting for the perfect moment, consistent people are stacking small wins. And those small wins eventually become undeniable results. So don't chase big changes. Commit to small actions done daily. Stay consistent long enough that quitting no longer feels like an option. Because when small actions are repeated with discipline, massive results become unavoidable. Most people don't fail because they lack ability or ambition. They fail because they leave too much up for debate. Every day becomes a negotiation. Should I do this now or later? Should I skip today and make up for it tomorrow? Do I really have to do this right now? And those small debates slowly drain momentum. This is why non-negotiable daily routines matter. They remove choice from the equation. When something is non-negotiable, it gets done regardless of mood, circumstances, or excuses. Think about the things you already do without question. You brush your teeth. You get dressed. You respond when your phone rings. You don't wake up and weigh the pros and cons of these actions. They're automatic. That's the power of routine. When a habit becomes non-negotiable, it stops requiring motivation and starts requiring obedience. Not to someone else, but to the version of you who decided your future matters. Most people rely on willpower, but willpower is limited. It runs out when you're tired, stressed, overwhelmed, or emotional. Routines don't rely on willpower, they rely on structure. And structure is what keeps you moving when life gets loud. A non-negotiable routine creates stability. In a world that constantly tries to pull you off course, the mistake many people make is trying to overhaul their entire life at once. They create long, unrealistic routines that collapse under pressure. Non-negotiable doesn't mean extreme, it means intentional. It means choosing a few actions that matter most and committing to them daily, no matter how small they seem. When your routine is realistic, consistency becomes possible. When it's possible, it becomes powerful. A non-negotiable routine also protects your energy. When your day has a structure, you waste less time deciding what to do next. Decision fatigue disappears. You don't ask yourself whether you'll work, train, learn, or improve. You already know. That mental clarity is a quiet advantage. While others are stuck overthinking, you're already in motion. And here's something important. Non-negotiable routines aren't rigid prisons. They're anchors. They keep you grounded when everything else feels uncertain. Life will throw unexpected challenges at you. Some days will go wrong. Some plans will fall apart. But when you have a routine you refuse to abandon, you always have something stable to return to. That stability builds confidence, not because life is easy, but because you know you can handle it. Non-negotiable routines also teach discipline without drama. You don't need to hype yourself up every day. You don't need to feel inspired. You simply follow the system. And systems outperform motivation every time. Motivation is emotional. Systems are reliable. When you commit to a system, progress becomes predictable. Another powerful thing routines do is they create identity. When you do something daily, you stop seeing it as a task and start seeing it as part of who you are. You're not someone who tries to work hard. You're someone who works daily. You're not someone who hopes to improve. You're someone who trains consistently. That identity shift is subtle, but it changes how you show up in every area of your life. There will be days when you want to break the routine. Days when skipping feels harmless. And skipping once may not ruin everything, but it opens the door to negotiation. And once negotiation starts, discipline weakens. Non-negotiable routines exist to protect you from that slippery slope. They remove the option to quit quietly. This doesn't mean ignoring your health or pushing through injury or burnout. It means adjusting the effort, not abandoning the habit. Even on low energy days, you show up in some form. You keep the chain unbroken. Because consistency isn't about intensity, it's about continuity. When routines are non-negotiable, excuses lose their power. You stop saying I'll do it when I have time and start making time. You stop waiting for the right mood and start acting regardless of how you feel. And over time, that repeated follow-through builds something deeper than success. It builds self-respect. Self-respect grows when your actions align with your intentions. Every time you honor your routine, you reinforce the belief that your goals matter. That belief becomes fuel. Not loud motivation, but quiet confidence. Confidence that doesn't need validation because it's built on evidence. Evidence that you show up. Non-negotiable routines also simplify life. When your priorities are clear, distractions lose their grip. You don't need to say yes to everything. You don't need to chase every opportunity. You know what matters, and you protect it daily. That focus compounds faster than scattered effort ever could. The truth is, freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want whenever you want. Freedom comes from discipline, from knowing that no matter what happens, you will do the things that move your life forward. Routines give you that freedom. They give you control in a world that constantly tries to take it away. So choose your non-negotiables wisely. Make them simple. Make them meaningful. And once you decide, stop negotiating. Because when your routines are unbreakable, your progress becomes unstoppable. One of the most overlooked skills in building a disciplined life is learning how to keep promises to yourself. Not promises made in emotional moments, not grand declarations spoken out loud, but the quiet commitments you make when no one else is listening. Those promises shape your inner world more than anything else, because the way you treat your own word determines the level of trust you have in yourself. And without self-trust, consistency is almost impossible to sustain. Think about how trust works in relationships. When someone repeatedly breaks their word, you stop relying on them. You hesitate. You lower expectations. The same thing happens internally. Every time you say you'll do something and don't follow through, your mind takes note. Over time, your inner voice starts to doubt you. It starts questioning your goals, your plans, even your potential. Not because you're incapable, but because your actions and your intentions are no longer aligned. Training your mind to honor commitments to yourself means closing that gap. It means proving through action that your word matters. And this training doesn't happen through big promises. It happens through small, manageable commitments that you keep consistently. When you make a promise you can realistically keep, and then you keep it, you send yourself a powerful signal: I can trust me. That signal changes how you show up in every area of life. Most people make the mistake of over-promising to themselves. They set unrealistic standards, miss them, and then feel disappointed. That cycle damages self-trust. Instead of motivating you, it teaches your mind that your words don't carry weight. Training your mind requires precision. Make fewer promises, but honor every single one. It's better to commit to 10 minutes of focused effort and complete it than to promise an hour and quit halfway. When you keep a promise to yourself, something subtle but important happens. Your confidence grows quietly, not the loud, performative kind, but the grounded confidence that comes from evidence. You no longer rely on hype or external validation. You know what you're capable of because you've proven it repeatedly. This kind of confidence doesn't disappear on bad days. It stays, because it's built on consistency. Honoring commitments to yourself also strengthens discipline without force. You stop needing External pressure to move. You don't wait for deadlines, reminders, or consequences. Your internal standard becomes enough. You do what you said you would do because breaking your word feels uncomfortable. That shift is powerful. It turns discipline into a personal value, not a temporary strategy. There will be moments when no one is watching. No rewards, no praise, no consequences if you quit. Those moments define your character. When you follow through anyway, you reinforce the belief that your actions are guided by principle, not convenience. That belief becomes part of your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. Your mind is always learning from your behavior. If you repeatedly ignore your own commitments, your mind learns that comfort is more important than growth. If you consistently honor them, your mind learns that progress matters more than excuses. This learning shapes your default response to challenges. Over time, honoring commitments becomes automatic. Another important aspect is learning to forgive yourself without excusing yourself. Training your mind doesn't mean being harsh or self-punishing, it means being honest. If you fall short, acknowledge it, adjust, and recommit. Don't rewrite the promise to make failure feel acceptable. Instead, refine the commitment so it remains realistic and meaningful. Accountability without cruelty builds resilience. When you start trusting yourself, you also start trusting the process. You stop panicking about results because you know you'll show up tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. That reliability creates emotional stability. You're no longer swinging between extreme hope and extreme disappointment. You become steady. And steadiness is a superpower. Honoring commitments to yourself also improves decision-making. When your word matters, you think more carefully before committing. You stop saying yes impulsively. You stop making promises just to feel good in the moment. That discernment protects your energy and keeps your focus sharp. You become intentional, not reactive. Over time, this discipline spills into other areas of life. People notice that you're reliable, opportunities increase, relationships strengthen. But the real win isn't external recognition, it's internal alignment. Knowing that the person you are matches the person you claim to be. That alignment creates peace, and peace makes discipline sustainable. The strongest form of discipline isn't enforced from the outside, it's enforced from within. When your mind respects your word, consistency becomes natural. You don't have to fight yourself anymore. You move forward with clarity, not conflict. So start small. Make promises you can keep. Keep them even when it feels inconvenient. Because every commitment you honor strengthens your self-trust, and once you trust yourself, nothing can shake your consistency. Growth has never lived in comfort. It never has, and it never will. Yet most people spend their lives trying to avoid discomfort at all costs. They avoid the hard conversation, the early mornings, the mental strain, the physical effort, the uncertainty, and then they wonder why nothing changes. Discomfort isn't a sign that something is wrong, it's a signal that something is working. The moment you feel resistance is usually the moment you're standing right at the edge of growth. Most people misunderstand discomfort. They see it as danger, as failure, as proof they're not cut out for more. But discomfort is simply unfamiliarity. It's your mind and body stepping into new territory, and anything new will feel uncomfortable at first. That feeling doesn't mean stop. It means continue. If growth were comfortable, everyone would be doing it consistently. The fact that it isn't is exactly why it separates those who evolve from those who stay stuck. Discipline shows itself most clearly in moments of discomfort. When everything feels easy, discipline isn't being tested. It's when things feel heavy, awkward, tiring, or uncertain that discipline reveals who you really are. Pushing through discomfort doesn't mean ignoring pain or damaging yourself. It means learning the difference between harmful pain and growth pain. Growth pain strengthens you. Harmful pain breaks you. Discipline is knowing when to endure and when to adjust without quitting. Most breakthroughs happen after the moment you wanted to stop. The workout that changes your body happens after the point your muscles start burning. The skill that changes your life develops after the frustration sets in. The confidence you're looking for shows up after you act despite fear. If you quit at the first sign of discomfort, you never reach the part where growth begins. You stay trapped at the surface. Discomfort is also where discipline replaces excuses. When things feel hard, the mind starts negotiating. Maybe tomorrow, maybe later, maybe this isn't the right time. Discipline doesn't argue. It acknowledges the discomfort and moves anyway, not aggressively, not emotionally, just steadily. That steady movement through discomfort builds mental toughness. And mental toughness isn't loud or dramatic, it's quiet endurance. One of the biggest lies people believe is that successful individuals don't feel discomfort. They do, they just don't let it decide for them. They feel resistance and keep going. They feel fear and act anyway. They feel tired and show up regardless, not because they enjoy suffering, but because they understand something deeper. Short-term discomfort protects them from long-term regret. Regret lasts longer than discomfort ever will. The discomfort of discipline fades. The pain of regret compounds. Skipping the hard thing today feels good for a moment, but it costs you later. Pushing through today feels hard now, but it pays you back with interest. Discipline is choosing which discomfort you're willing to live with. Discomfort also sharpens focus. When something is easy, you can drift. When something is uncomfortable, you're present, you're aware, you're engaged. That presence accelerates growth. You learn faster, you adapt quicker, you become resilient. Comfort dulls the mind. Discomfort wakes it up. Another truth people avoid is that confidence is built inside discomfort. You don't become confident by waiting until you feel ready. You become confident by surviving moments you once thought you couldn't handle. Every time you push through discomfort, you expand your limits. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. What once felt overwhelming becomes routine. That's how confidence grows, not through comfort, but through capability. Discomfort also exposes what matters. When things are hard, priorities become clear. You stop chasing distractions. You stop wasting energy on things that don't move you forward. Discipline in discomfort refines your direction. It teaches you what's essential and what's optional. That clarity becomes a powerful advantage. There will be days when discomfort feels heavier than usual. Days when everything feels slow, effort feels pointless, and quitting feels logical. Those are the days that matter most. Not because they're dramatic, but because they test your commitment. Anyone can be disciplined when progress is visible. Few can stay disciplined when progress is invisible. But invisible progress is still progress. Muscles grow during rest. Roots grow underground. Strength is built quietly. Learning to push through discomfort also teaches patience. You stop needing instant results. You stop needing reassurance every step of the way. You learn to trust the process. And once you trust the process, discomfort loses its power to intimidate you. It becomes part of the journey, not a reason to turn back. Discipline doesn't remove discomfort from your life. It teaches you how to carry it. It shows you that you are stronger than the resistance you feel, that you don't have to wait for ease to move forward. That growth happens not because discomfort disappears, but because you become capable of moving with it. So when things feel uncomfortable, don't pull back, lean in, because the moment you choose growth over comfort is the moment your future starts changing. At some point, consistency stops being something you try to do and starts becoming something you are. That's the moment everything changes. When consistency becomes your identity, results stop being a possibility and start becoming a certainty. Not because life suddenly gets easier, but because you've removed quitting as an option. You don't rely on bursts of effort anymore. You rely on who you've trained yourself to be. Most people treat consistency like a phase. They're consistent when things are new, exciting, or emotionally charged. Then life happens. Energy dips, results slow down, and consistency disappears. But unshakable consistency isn't emotional. It's embodied. It's when showing up becomes so normal that not showing up feels strange. It's when discipline is no longer something you force, but something you default to. This is where identity matters. You will always act in alignment with who you believe you are. If you see yourself as someone who tries, inconsistency feels acceptable. If you see yourself as someone who shows up, quitting feels out of character. The goal isn't to motivate yourself forever. The goal is to become the kind of person who doesn't need motivation to stay consistent. When consistency becomes part of your identity, external circumstances lose their power over you. Bad days don't derail you. Good days don't make you reckless. You move steadily regardless of emotional weather. That steadiness is what makes results inevitable. Life can delay outcomes, but it can't deny them when effort is consistent over time. This level of consistency doesn't come from intensity. It comes from repetition, from doing the same small things long enough that they become automatic, from choosing discipline so many times that it becomes familiar. Eventually, your habits carry you forward even when your mind is tired. That's when consistency stops feeling heavy and starts feeling natural. Unshakable consistency also changes how you view time. You stop rushing. You stop chasing shortcuts. You stop panicking when results don't appear immediately. You understand that time is an ally when effort is steady. You're no longer asking, "Is this working yet?" You already know it is because you're still showing up. This mindset removes desperation. Desperation leads to burnout. Consistency leads to endurance. When you know you'll be there tomorrow, you don't need to squeeze everything into today. You work with patience. You build sustainably. And sustainable effort outlasts talent, luck, and motivation every single time. There's a quiet confidence that comes with this kind of consistency. You don't need to announce your plans. You don't need to prove anything. You trust the process because you trust yourself to follow through. That trust creates calm. Calm creates clarity, and clarity allows you to focus on what truly matters. Eventually, results start appearing, not all at once, but steadily. And when they do, they don't feel surprising. They feel earned, they feel expected. Because when consistency is unshakable, success isn't a question, oh, if, only when. Life has no choice but to respond to effort that refuses to stop. What separates those who reach their goals from those who stay stuck isn't intelligence, talent, or opportunity, it's endurance. The ability to keep going after the excitement fades, after the applause disappears, after progress slows. Consistency becomes a filter. Those who can't maintain it fall away. Those who can rise quietly. And here's the truth most people miss. Once consistency becomes your identity, discipline stops feeling restrictive. It feels freeing. You're no longer constantly restarting, no longer rebuilding momentum, no longer negotiating with yourself. You move forward with less friction because you've aligned your actions with who you are. You don't need to be extreme. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent enough, long enough, that stopping no longer makes sense. That's when life changes direction. That's when growth compounds. That's when success becomes unavoidable. Because when discipline shapes your identity and consistency becomes your standard, results have no choice but to follow.